Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. Troy Miller is a good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast many, many times before. We've done probably 500 or 600 photo critiques to date. So I was surprised when I got a message from Troy a couple of days ago. Troy has been experimenting with AI music and having a great time with it. He's also been going through a bit of a kind of soul searching process with, you guessed it, photography. So he put together this song called I Was a Storyteller, which I think for a lot of us hits very close to home, if not directly at home. So we're going to talk about a couple of things in this interview. We're going to talk about just his experience with artificial intelligence in terms of from the aspect of making music versus creating photos and generative AI and all that. Then we're going to talk about the meaning of this song and where it came from. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a little bit about the future from Troy's perspective of the wedding photography industry overall with this looming AI and smartphones and computational and all this stuff. Like, what does that mean for the wedding and portrait photographer? So with that, my friend, Mr. Troy Miller on the hot seat. Troy, how's it going, man? How you doing?
It's good. It's good. How are you
Good.
doing?
I'm excited to have this conversation. I was blown away when I got that file from you, that song, because you'd told me you've been experimenting with the service Juno, Suno, sorry,
Suno. Yeah.
Suno is the service that you use. Turns out there's a bunch of them. I did some research last night. There's many more. I don't know how good they are compared to Suno, but there's a bunch out there. But I was surprised that you're experimenting with it because you are a pixel pusher by trade, not necessarily a waveform manager. And you put together this song that was like amazing. So I want people, we're going to play a little bit of it during this interview a little bit later, but I wanted to start with that. So AI, artificial intelligence, you and I have been talking about it and how the good, bad, and ugly, and misinformation, disinformation, all that stuff. But now you're an AI on music. So give us the story of how you got there.
So I've always been a bit of a creative. Like I've always been like I build furniture. I have done like all the cabinets and everything like in my office. Like I build everything. So I've always been very creative, and I really kind of started my creative journey as far back as like high school, junior high, where I wanted to write. I wanted to be a writer, and I was very inspired by C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, things like that. And so I always have written, and so throughout my adult life, I journal, I write poems, I write song lyrics, I write ideas. And then I got into playing the guitar. Like I can play the guitar, but I'm not a guitar player. I just don't have the time to dedicate to it, right? Like anybody who's learned photography, like you have to put in time. So it was either photography or music. But it's always been there, right? It's always been something I enjoy. I've written lots of lyrics and I've written lots of like chord progressions and riffs and things. And then somehow, I don't remember how it came across, probably from you or one of our discussions, Suno popped up on my radar. And this was like about a year ago, and I started playing with it, and I was like, okay, it's not amazing. It sounds like AI, but even putting lyrics into a song form that doesn't sound like a great song, it still added a level of impact that I was really impressed with. And that's just it. I've just been playing with it. My mom has written poetry and songs about like all the kids, the grandkids, and she wrote like legit songs like this is the verse, this is the chorus. And I started feeding those into Juno. And it was so emotional to hear songs that she has written about like my dad, who has since passed away. You know, reading the lyrics is one thing, but then to hear them rhythmically is a little bit different. So that's how I got into it. And that's kind of, I've been playing with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? And as we were talking about this before, and the whole title of the song, right? I was a storyteller, and I would change the was to am, right? Because you're once a storyteller, always
Yeah.
storyteller. And we were talking about how you're excited about telling stories now in this new medium. Like, how does that feel? Like, do you feel direct parallels between photographic composition, exposures, f-stop, shutter speeds, all that, and what it takes to put together a coherent song, even collaborating with AI?
I do, yeah. And so just to kind of be clear on how this was created though, is I wrote the lyrics. And some of the lyrics I had AI help me kind of flush out. I had ChatGPT help me flush out like the structure of a song because I'm not a songwriter, right? So to be fair, this isn't something that I just said, "Oh, write me a song about this," and then I'm calling it my own. Like I wrote the lyrics; those are my lyrics. I just can't do the musical part, and I couldn't format it into a song. So I think that's important. Well, however you do it, I think it's still legitimately creative. But I think it comes down to being able to pre-visualize something. And I think with music, music helps the viewer to see what you're pre-visualizing, to see your story. As a photographer, I see a thing that I want to convey in a single frame. I see light. I might have a subject, a bride, a family, or whatever, nice background. I'm like, oh, like look at that interaction. Like that would be amazing. So it's still telling a story. It's just one you hear and when you see. But as a photographer, I've learned how to pre-visualize things to see them, and then okay, that's my final product, right? That's my
Right,
final
right.
goal, is I have to build that somehow.
Like with photography, it feels like you're grabbing raw materials, especially as a pro, because you know what you can do in post, and you know that I can bring the detail back in that sky, or do a number of things to make the final story sell. How does that translate to music? To music, how does that translate? Or is it just like, I don't care, this is
Yeah.
more personal, and if it resonates with you, then great. If not, then find another song. Like, is it more of that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that there's a lot of parallels in the photography and the music thing for me. In that the parallel is that as a photographer, with a veteran photographer, right? So I look at like students and people I'm mentoring or people I'm helping, and my thing is like, oh well, we have to do this just right because that's what I do. And a lot of times you find like they just want to play, like they just, this is therapy for them. I just want to be outside and take pictures. I want to hunt down all the tripod holes from my favorite photographers, and I want to collect that shot. For me, I'm on their side when it comes to music. I'm never going to be a professional. I don't see myself ever selling my work or anything like that. I do this as sort of therapy. It's a creative outlet for me. And so I just like making it, getting that emotion, getting that impact, and sharing it. You
Yeah.
know?
It's
I mean,
just it seems like. Go ahead.
I went camping with my niece and nephew, and I wrote them each a little song, or co-wrote with AI, each of them a little song about their experience when we went camping. And it's like a nice little remember, of that moment that isn't only a photograph, but now they have photos. It's That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I can do
Yeah,
that.
photos with a personalized soundtrack to go along with those photos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And with that, so good segue, because I'm wondering, does this represent a different, I don't know if you would say genre, maybe it is a genre, but a different way for us consumers to consume more personalized music, right? So now, if I happen to like jazz and whatever, country, whatever, right? I like these genres of music and I'm in a certain mood. I can generate a song that mixes and that speaks to that mood. Are we heading towards a reality where these Taylor Swifts and Nicki Minaj's and all those mega stars are kind of the old way of doing things? Because now, instead of like kind of liking that verse, but that's the only thing I like about that song, now I can have something that's more, as some people say, fit for purpose. Like, what do you think?
That's going to get real challenging for people, right? We're already seeing that happen in the movie, the story writers, the writer strikes, things like that. Dock workers, where they don't want AI or remote workers to come in and take their jobs, right? Like that's always very sensitive, and none of us want to see our jobs go away. But I've been challenged as a photographer with technology for a really, really long time, and we have to adapt. So when I started as a film shooter. So as a film shooter, like I was a purist, man. Like I shot for 15 years with a Hasselblad, and like this digital crap's gonna just ruin photography. Well, a lot of photographers went out of business because they had that mentality. I embraced digital, and I realized that I had to be better, and I had to figure out a way to be better than everybody else that was in that. And then that's 20 more years of my career was being better at digital. I think for the music industry and the movie industry, it's going to affect them the same way, right? When people can render movies just as easy, they're going to get butthurt over it, but they need to embrace it. So if you were a mediocre digital photographer, you got stomped by the amazing digital photographer. If you're even if you're a mediocre film photographer, right? If you're a mediocre artist, songwriter, cinematographer, you're going to get stomped by somebody in their bedroom using AI to write a song, because that's what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
my hope is that, like the artists that you mentioned and the up and coming artists, that they're going to elevate their song craft. They're going to elevate their storytelling. And I also do believe that AI and AI written songs and things like that aren't ever going to replace a live performance. But I think what it's going to do is it's going to give credibility to somebody who can sit there and play a guitar solo and have a wonderful vocal range or entertain. That's still never going to go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I listen
The
to in
raw
my
talent.
car. Yeah, what I listen to in my car or when I'm mowing the lawn, it's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah. I wonder, wouldn't it be cool? You're old enough to remember this. You remember Schoolhouse Rock back in the day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Verb, I do my thing with action, and I'm just a Bill. Remember those?
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool to explore using music as another form of education again? Because you can now, right? Back then, you needed Schoolhouse Rock and all those people to create the songs and limited audience. I wonder if you could teach someone a complex or even not so complex subject using music. Like kids can remember, like I still remember all the lyrics to, ton of songs from when I was growing up, What if you like put schoolwork in that box
Oh
or
my
just
gosh.
learning Photoshop or something,
Well,
it seems like it's
like
possible.
that's such a brilliant idea that I never really thought about, but you're right. So let's say that you have like 20 flashcards of subject matter that you have to remember about the Civil War. Plug those into ChatGPT and say, I need to study for this, turn this into a song, feed it into Suno, make a song out of it, and there you go.
Yeah.
It's going to stick in your head. Like,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Listen to it on your run. Listen to it on your commute or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even complex things. I'm studying for the bar and I need to get through this section, make a song out of that, the key
Yeah.
concepts of that section and
Yeah.
see if that
Great.
resonates. Because it's going to light up different parts of your brain than just reading it and like, my eyes are tearing up and I've read the same sentence 30
Right.
times.
Right.
Like to have it in there, especially if it's got a catchy beat in a genre that you enjoy listening to. It's like, So
Well, our
that's
brains,
just beginning. We're at the beginning, right?
yeah, and our brains remember things based on sight, vision, smell, touch, all these things, right? And so like the poems that my mom has written, like about my dad or my brothers, about me when I was young, or about an experience or whatever, when I read those poems, it takes me back. Like I can see those things so clearly, and then I think like when you put them into a song, it sort of amplifies that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other aspect to this that I find very encouraging, and I think AI in general, is that anybody with like mobility issues or handicap, like any of those things, like now the ability for them to create is fantastic. Someone who can't hold a paintbrush could still use AI to create an image that's in their mind's eye, right? Someone who might be deaf could write a song, could write poetry and have it put to music that other people can listen to and have that emotional impact that they're trying to convey. Like there's so many things that we can do now that is giving accessibility to other people that wouldn't normally have access to that.
Like kids, right? I mean, can you like I wonder if AI is the end of the board and history class doodles inside of the Trapper Keeper, right? Right?
Right.
Remember drawing the Liger from whatever that movie was, right? So like those
Yeah.
kind I used to have a whole like set of heroes that I would draw, right? I remember
Right.
drawing them and I knew how to
Right.
make the faces and the capes flow and all that. Is that era, you think that like with I mean obviously not music but on the generative image making side of artificial intelligence is the whole idea of sketching and having fun on a sketch pad over because you can just prompt it and then take whatever is close and make it better inside of whatever tool you choose?
I don't think so. What I think is happening right now is that AI, the generative prompting, music videos, whatever you want to do, is very popular, right? That's where the big focus is. But what's going to happen is that fire is going to calm down, and it's going to become just another tool. So, like this morning, I was playing with Suno, and so I recorded a little chord progression. I fed it into Suno, and I said, "Okay, expand on that." And it expands on that, and it adds like a solo track, or it adds a bass track, or it adds. So now I'm not just letting it like build it from scratch. It's becoming one of my tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the sketch pad, somebody may sit down, they may sketch something, and then they take that and they bring that into AI, or they bring it into Photoshop, and they use AI to add depth and dimension and three dimensionality, and then maybe animate it, and then put a soundtrack to it.
Yeah.
It's not just over there all by itself.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah.
It becomes a tool.
It's so many, like, the mind boggles with all the things that you can do, and that things that we can do keeps expanding almost daily as they iterate on these tools. I want to move into the second section in a second that I want to cover, and that's the why around the song "I Was a Storyteller." And before we move into that, I'll play a little bit of the song so people can get a feel for it, and also we'll embed the song somehow in the blog post for this episode if people want to go ahead and listen to it. But before we dive into the whys of it, I want to just wrap this section up with the how. So people that are like, "Oh, this sounds fantastic. I have ideas. I have poems that I want to make into music." How do they get started? Like, what's the path to creating a song using AI?
So there's a couple ways to do it. Suno, Suno.com, with no affiliation to either one of us. And there's other AI generative tools out there for music, but I use Suno. You could literally plug in your song lyrics, and then there's a box that you could say, here's what I want the song to sound like. You can't say it wants to sound like another artist. You just say, I want it to have a heavy acoustical guitar, or I want it to be whatever, right? EDM, electronic, whatever you want. And then you hit create. And then you keep refining that process, change the lyrics, or you change the style. That's really as complicated or as simple as you can make it. What I've done is I've written my own lyrics. Sometimes it's a poem, sometimes it's just a paragraph. I take that to ChatGPT because I think ChatGPT does a better job. And I ask it to put this in the format of a song, but don't change my lyrics. Or if there's any lyric changes, make those suggestions and let me know. So sometimes words don't rhyme properly, or sometimes I want to change a word. And so I use ChatGPT to do that. So that really helps me refine that. That's my collaborator.
Yeah.
So then I take those lyrics, I bring them into Suno, and then I give it the sort of the audio description that I want it to be, like a folk song, or I want it to be, happy, cheesy, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it generates two, and then you can modify from there.
So it gives you two ideas to play with, and then you just keep going. Once you create a song and you like it, it's in Suno. How much control do you have over that song? Like, can you go in and edit certain verses in that song? Can you change certain instruments or the instrumentals entirely? Can you switch the genre? Like, what do you have?
So currently, there's none of that in there. It's all based on what description you give it, and then it creates it for you. So you can't go in and like, okay, I like the guitar, but let's make the guitar an electric guitar, and then it just rewrites the song and changes that. Like, it doesn't have that incremental level of adjustments yet. I don't know what they're going to do with it, right? So no, but you can't really do that.
You can't do that yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
So people should, like, if they want to play with it, they should just head over to Suno. It's Suno.com. Yeah, Suno.com, and dive in and it's free, right? So you create a free account and dive in and play around. I'm assuming it's free. And then if you want like super advanced features or higher fidelity, then you gotta ante up.
Yeah, I don't remember what's in the free version. I think it gives you like a limited amount of creations. But the cool thing is that you can go there and you can listen to other songs other people have created that they've made public. So on my channel, like as you and I had talked once before, I made a whole bunch of songs public in there now. So under, what is it, Spicy Jello?
Wow. So this is the Troy Miller, I guess it wouldn't be discography anymore, right? What would There's no discs involved in the making of these songs. Yeah, look at this. You made all these. You've been pouring your heart out, man. Look at
Well, that's
that.
only a few. There's so many more.
Wow. And here, what's this one? Johnson and Miller. What's that?
I wrote that one this morning.
That's awesome. All right, I'll put that in the post. Can I put it in the post?
Yeah, it's appropriate. Yeah.
All
There
right,
might
I'll
be
put it in
one
the
or
post.
two that's not adult appropriate. I don't know if I put in there. Oh yeah, the all y'all. That one has some foul language in it.
They need to have like a parental guidance thing on these things. So, beware of this song. It may contain a sequence of syllables that you may find offensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly true.
All right. So folks, I encourage you, I'm sure Troy does too, to just dive in and play with these things. I looked at a number of these. Like there's one called Udio. I'll link to all of these. There's one called Udio. What's the other one? There's a couple of them. And I'll link to some of the ones that I found more interesting in the blog post for this. But let's conclude the why or the how section of this discussion and transition into the why section, right? So what this song is about. And before we do that, I want to play a little bit of said song for folks while we listen and appear intent. All right, here we go. I'm going to play this.
I held the world in my hands, framed in light and perfect plans. Each moment was a story to weave. Now it's a dream I can't retrieve. The lens of my soul used to shine. Now it's clouded, lost to time. Dust on the dreams I used to know, fading faster than I can let go. I was a storyteller, a painter of light. I was a dreamer who chased the night. I was a creator, a builder, a name. Now I'm just echoes of a flickering flame. Each frame was a moment, a life preserved. Now I wonder, was it all deserved? With thrills gone, the passion's dry, I scroll through my past and wonder why. Was it the pressure, the grind, the race? Or did I just lose the spark, the chase? The tools I held now feel so strange, a reminder of what I can't exchange. I was a storyteller, a keeper of dreams. I was alive in those vibrant scenes. I was a creator, a purpose, a voice. Now I'm just someone without a choice. Can I find the fire again? Do I even know where to begin? Or is it okay to let it rest and say goodbye to what was my best? I was a storyteller, I captured the sun. Now I'm the one who feels overrun. Maybe I'll rise, or maybe I'll stay, but I'll always remember who I was yesterday.
Okay. So I have thoughts on this. So first of all, great song, right? I love the melody. I love the genre you chose, kinds of folksy kind of music. The guitar. I bet you could play that song too. But okay, let's talk about the whys behind this. So are you still feeling this way? So what I got out of that song, you feel like I've been doing this for a while and all these things have happened, AI, smartphones, just the attrition of people that want wedding albums and all that stuff are coming to bear and making you feel some kind of way about your chosen vocation. So that's what I hear as a listener. What did the artist intend me to hear?
Well, there's two answers to that. There's the artist that, and I'm not partial to this, but there's the idea that let the song mean whatever it means to you, and but I'm also of the opinion, like, I really want to know why the artist wrote them. So I say it that way, so you can kind of take it and make it your own. For me, it was written like during COVID, just post COVID. My business really took a big dive. The wedding industry has changed a lot. There's a lot of reasons behind that. That's a whole series of discussions about the industry. But for me, it was like, this is kind of just expressing the idea that my heavy years as a wedding photographer are predominantly behind me, right? Like doing 40, 50 weddings a year at the caliber that I was doing them, like I don't see that happening anymore. And it's weird for me to say, but like, your identity shifts. When you're doing that much work and that many weddings, and then all of a sudden you're not doing that many anymore. You have to ask yourself, like, do I tell people I'm a wedding photographer?
Hmm.
Like, I guess, and so it's kind of that struggle, right? It's that mental processing of your place in life, your career, your job. And for me, creative outlets help me cope with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So journaling is always a big help for me. And then Suno comes along, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can put this to music now. Like, I'm so stoked. So that's where it came from, right? It was just me kind of expressing my lament of my position at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you feel now? You feel the same?
I do. I do. You know, so to be fair, right? Like I've been doing weddings for 30 years, right?
Hmm.
And at some point in my life, I'm either going to age out, or I'm just going to get burned out, or I'm just going to want to do less, right? Like weddings are incredibly stressful. There's a lot of complexity, and I love all of that. But at some point, I just want to do less of them. And so that's always been on my radar. I just didn't want it to happen when it did. I wasn't ready for it.
Right.
It wasn't
Right.
in my time, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to say COVID took it away from me, but because I think COVID had accelerated the process, and I was a little dumbstruck by it. I was like, I don't know that I'm ready for that, right? So yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
what's next for you? So there's millions of people, millions of photographers, I'm guessing, all over the world that probably feel the same or similar. Um, Event photographers, portrait photographers, wedding photographers. We even talked about compositing artists and copywriters
yeah.
and all those people. But what's next for you? Right? So you like you said, you've built this name and empire and amazing body of work and all the processes. I even know I've been to your house. I know what goes on behind the scenes of how you manage all this stuff. It's not insignificant in any way. So what do you do? Like, okay, how do I retool this, thing to both serve my financial requirements as well as my soul requirements for being creative? Or like, do you retool it or do you control alt delete and start again? And what does that look like?
So being in business for a long time, we've been through a lot of transitions. We've been through the film to digital transition. That was not a small transition. We survived through sort of like the recession in 2008 and the tech market crash, and that was a huge thing for us. Then, we sort of had to struggle with a lot of photographers coming into photography because, digital is easy to get involved in, right? So we do what we always do is we adjust, we pivot, we reinvent, we take a step back and look at our strengths. Sometimes that market is strong enough that you can reinsert yourself, which happened like in 2008. My business was going down, but my friends' businesses were going up. And I had to take a step back and be like, oh, it's because you're being lazy, Troy. You're not marketing like you should. You got to get your butt out there and market. And that carried me for another, almost 20 years. I don't see the industry the same. And so I have to take a step back and decide like, oh, is this the market that I want to be in? Do I want to be a heavy wedding photographer again, predominantly wedding? Or do I want to like shift and do more families and boudoir and other things, right? And, to be clear, I'm not mad at AI. I'm not frustrated at my competitors. I'm not mad at anybody. Like, I'm not angry. I am trying to understand it. That's why we talk about it. So I can just shift. Like, okay, if there's 25 photographers in my area that want to do the weddings that I would normally do for $4,500 and they want to do them for $1,500, I'm not going to begrudge them work. I'm just not going to play in that pool anymore. I've just got to kind of shift. So you shift. Yeah, you adjust. And anybody that's been in business any length of time and succeeded, it's not easy. Every 3 to 5 years, you get a roadblock.
Yeah. This one, granted, has been more of a cliff edge than a roadblock, right?
To be fair. Yeah. This sometimes I look at it and think like, oh, this freeway's not reopening. Nope.
Nope, it's not. Those are some pretty big bomb damages over there. It's not gonna, Yeah.
Sometimes,
so what do you like? I know we're gonna transition in a second to just and close with your thoughts on the industry, the wedding photography industry overall, wedding and portrait. But considering your feelings and the thought and the emotion that you put into the "I Was a Storyteller" song, as a mentor, when photographers come to you, and I know a lot of them do, and ask you questions about business and this and what camera should I buy, all that stuff. We all get those questions. What's your answer now? Like prior Troy, like Troy of 3 years ago, let's say 3 year pre-pandemic Troy would have said something different, I think, than 2025 Troy.
Yeah, for sure. Pre-cataclysm, I would have said, look, like you can make an absolute career out of being a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, commercial photographer, like any one of those. You could absolutely do it. And you can make a really good living, right? I'm talking, 6 figures, easy. Now, I would say you can make a decent living in photography, but it's going to be a battle and you have to work hard. You're going to have to multitask. You're going to have to be social media, blogs. It's no longer just about being an amazing photographer, creating content and having somebody love you and then buy you. Like, you're competing with all this other stuff. So be ready for a fight.
Yeah. You gotta love the craft. It's taking more of a commitment than ever. But which is a perfect segue into the industry, right? We're at the end of the year, which means beginning of the year, we're going to start seeing all the conferences again, or WPPI, it was Photo Plus Expo. I forget what we're calling it now.
I don't know.
Imaging USA, all these events that are tailored for the wedding and portrait photographer and that industry. What does the industry feel like to you now, right? Does it feel like, to put a finer point on it, is it okay, let's go. I know you don't go to those shows that much anyway, but like, is it full of excitement and promise about what the next Nikon is going to be, or the next iteration of Photoshop is going to give us these new features that we wanted, or Capture One is going to be doing all these crazy things now. I can't wait to put those in my workflow, or try this new technique, or whatever. Do you have that hunger this year versus years past of what's next? Or have you ever had that I need the new thing hunger?
Boy, like your questions always have so much packed into them.
Yes.
So back in the day, right? Like I've been doing this for 30 years, right? And so have you.
Hmm.
So anybody who has been a photographer for the last 5 to 10 years, you probably didn't get a sense of this, but we used to only get new tech at the trade shows. We only saw new things at the trade shows. That doesn't happen anymore. I can't speak to what it means to run a trade show, but the last dozen trade shows I went to, I only went to hang out with my friends and be in Vegas. I didn't go because of the trade show. There was nothing new there for me that I didn't already know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I don't get from a podcaster or a blog or This Week in Photo, right? You talk about new lighting or new cameras or whatever. Like I've already got it. So you go for inspiration, you go to meet people. The future is weird, and I don't want to come across as negative because it's easy to sound negative about it, but I don't mean it to be negative. I feel like the photography industry used to be like go into a high-end mall and there's a restaurant there, a restaurant there, a restaurant there, and you're like, oh gosh, which one do I want to go to? Like they're all nice, they're high-end, they're busy. Now it's like walking into the food court, and the ceiling quality has dropped on what is acceptable as a quality photograph. People are pouring way too much attention into the software and the AI and the generative fill, and they're building images now as opposed to like learning how to use light, going outside and just single camera. You don't need all this lighting equipment, all this gear, and all this crap you see everybody promoting, right?
Yeah.
And trying to sell you. And so in one sense, like the high-end quality stuff is there, but there's so much noise, there's so much background noise. And I guess what I feel is like you and I can discern the difference. I feel bad. I mean, I legitimately feel bad for somebody who's like, I'm gonna go into the world and I'm gonna be a photographer. And I just want to hold their hand and be like, don't look over there. Don't look over there. We're going to stay here. No, you don't need that lens. No, you don't need to buy those lights yet. Like, there's so much noise.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets different. I mean, the noise, it's a never ending sort of tide of different things to play with and get excited about. And yet it's almost like a battle of the nerd part of yourself, that loves tech and geek and playing and experimenting, with the fiscally responsible part of yourself, which is, okay, does that help drive my business or my agenda or my vision board forward, right? Or not?
So,
and I'm getting older. Should I deny myself of these toys?
So here's a bit of advice that seems very, very, very contradictory. And that is, don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to us. Don't listen to anybody on YouTube or don't listen to them wholeheartedly. Take them as inspiration or take them as ideas, but every single one of those people are wrong. Everything that they're telling you only works for them. And when you see product reviews or you see any of that, just take it with a grain of salt. Take my advice with a grain of salt. Take everything Frederick says with a grain of salt, right? Because you're a unique person and your vision and your way of working in photography is unique. Photography is one of the most interesting professions where we can all be photographers, but none of us do it the same way. So if you have a Z8, and we were just out with my friends and they were trying to photograph birds, and he's like, yeah, watch this YouTube video and it won't focus on the birds. And I'm like, well, buddy, you just got it set up wrong. No, this guy's like a bird photographer. Like he knows what he's doing. I'm like, it's wrong. So we fixed it and it worked. And maybe what that guy was sharing was right for what he was doing. So I guess that's part of my thing. It's like, that's where the noise is. Just take a step back from that. Test everything yourself. Make sure it works. And just don't believe anybody, right? Until you can prove
That's
it.
life advice, man. Yeah, not just photography. That's just generally good life advice.
It is. But here's the thing, my friend. And here's what really, really sort of haunts me. Because, I have F64 Live and I do education and stuff, is it really does haunt me that so many people are being misled about the gear they need, about how that gear works, about how lighting works. And I can just see the roadblocks in front of them trying to run a business, trying to be creative, and trying to buy some groceries.
Yeah.
Or just create a creative process, right? They all get tangled up in all those weeds. And I just wish there was an easier way to clear that,
Yeah. Fast forward to 2030. We're in 25 now, for all intents and purposes. From what you know about the acceleration of all these different technologies, from just straight cameras to AI to VR to AR to all of them, what does the profession of photography look like in 5 years from now?
So I'm very optimistic. I think that where we are is like a big pendulum swing. So to give a little bit of historical reference is that when digital came out and then the digital camera started to shoot video, everybody said that's the death of photography, right? That's the death of the artist. We're just going to pull frames out of video and nobody's going to be a photographer anymore. And they were entirely wrong. I think that's kind of what's happening with AI. Right. I think that the integration of AI and the advances that Photoshop is making and other Capture One and their ability to have AI and selection, like all these cool tools, like that's the hot topic right now. Everybody's talking about that. But once that stuff settles and it just becomes another tool in your toolbox, the photographers that are relying on all that, they're going to fade because they have no sustainability. They're not they can't create, right? Those that are going to sustain and live their way through and become professionals and build a customer base, they're going to excel. I also think that what's going to happen in that's the creator side. I also think on the customer side, they're going to get tired of fast food. And they're going to want some quality, some sustenance, and they're going to want that. So right now, you might have companies that are using AI to generate models and do all this kind of stuff. And that's great. But there's downsides to that we in the professional industry understand. Eventually, the corporate world will catch on. Your consumers will catch on, and they'll be like, go buy stock for that or go render stuff for that. But this is an important product, or this is my family. This is an important shoot, or I need to hire a professional. And I think that we'll see that pendulum swing to where the industry will have more value and what we do will have more value and it'll have more importance, right? It'll have more significance to individuals. And then those that have a craft, those that understand how to work with people, how to create, how to photograph, they understand what equipment means, they're the ones who are going to rise to the top.
And those people that rise to the top, are there enough? Do you think there's going to be enough of them to sustain the businesses that rely on that flock, right? To keep them going, whether it's a camera company, a software and services company, education, whatever, are there going to be enough people that have that cream of the crop kind of mentality to make that industry keep moving forward?
I don't think so. And I know that sounds kind of negative, right? But I think what's happening is if you're listening to this today and you're a photographer of 3 to 5 or 10 years and you got another 10 or 20 years you want to put into that, you have to become a ninja master. You can't just be good at photography. You have to excel. You have to be able to live and breathe it and just do it naturally. Because what's going to happen is what we see was happening in the construction world, right? Where construction workers used to be considered low life, right? I was one. We weren't respected. Now you can't get a contractor to save your life. And if you can get a good one, you've hit the lottery. And it's because now there's so many people that have demand for contractors. Anybody is getting involved. It's quick to get a contractor's license or general contractor's license or even just work without one. Most of them are not good. And I fear that that's what's going to happen in photography, is that it's so easy to enter. It's so easy to go to YouTube University. It's so easy to build a web page and call yourself a professional. And we're saturating the market with that when the demand comes and Nike or This Week in Photo is big and decides, I want to do this event, I want to hire these photographers, they're going to hire a bunch of people that can't keep up.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want that to come across as negative or poo-poo, or I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I'm not. It's just, I'm just an analyst, right? I'm like a stock analyst predicting where a stock's going to go. Like, I'm going to be
Mhm.
wrong. I'm predicting the weather, but it's a perception that I have.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong on most counts, right? But
Yeah. Yeah, for the most part, I agree with you. I also would overlay in there that technology is moving so fast. Even with these things, right? Our phones, right? They're just like the tech in these phones is just mind-boggling what you can do compared to what I could do back in the day with my Nikon F3, right? And Photoshop version 2. Like in my back pocket is some amazing power that's getting better and better. And I wonder, as the old guard kind of goes away to be replaced gradually by the new guard, that maybe not even, yeah, the last time I saw a wedding album was my grandfather. I don't even know what that is. All of our stuff's in this cloud service or whatever. Right. So I wonder if the waterline of mediocrity is now higher, so that what is considered acceptable and beautiful is up here where it
right,
used to be, oh, you're a photographer, so that means you can take photos that are in focus and composed properly, and you can make prints and all that. Now everyone can do it for the most part, and you can do it with tools that you already have. So I wonder, are we heading, and I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder if we're heading in the direction of my beautiful Nikon kit that I have over here, right? With my beautiful holy trinity of lenses and filters and all the things. Is that akin to like my grandfather, showing me old stuff? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it's kind of weird because back in the day, before all the digitalization and AI technology, a hammer did a hammer's job, a screwdriver did a screwdriver's job, and didn't matter who used it. Um, it was predictable. Anybody could pick it up. An amateur could drive a nail. A pro framer could drive a nail, but they did a little faster, a little more skill. Digital has really sort of diluted what that's all about. And I mean, I don't have a direct answer for like your analogy, but I do think that because of the democratization of access to the internet, building websites, building blogs, creating yourself as a perceived expert is detrimental to the industry. Absolutely. And in to speaking to the wedding industry specifically, like my average wedding is like $4,500. And I know that a bride who is given a budget is going to go on Facebook, or she's going to go do some research, and she's going to see somebody who will shoot for the same amount of time that I'll shoot for $1,500, because they
Hmm.
might have a full-time job and they just need extra money on the weekend, or maybe they just are trying to make some money, so they're willing to work for less. Like I get that. The difference is, how is the bride going to know that I can create amazing work in a hurricane and a rainstorm when everything goes bad? This other photographer doesn't have those skills.
Right.
And so it's not only tough to be in the industry, but it's also tough to be the consumer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's really not easy,
Right.
because it's so easy to be misled. So kind of like going back, like if you're going to have an electrician come in and install an outlet, whether it was now or 20 years ago, we all can tell whether it works or not, whether it's loose or not.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
It's not so easy now
Right.
with this sort of like craft and technology and stuff. It's
I mean,
blurry, it's messy.
it's very blurry, and you hit the nail right on the head, right? I mean, everything we've been talking about has been assuming a certain level of honesty, right? You're okay, I'm good, but I'm not that good, so maybe one day I'll charge, and you walk that ladder like, many have done before you. But then now, somebody could wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I want to be a photographer." And by the end of that day, they could have a website up with payment links on that website, a booking calendar, and a beautiful portfolio of work that they generated with AI or pulled down from stock or whatever, and put their name up there, write a bio that talks about how amazing they are, and put a price tag up there. They could do that. Like today, someone could do that, and that person not only are you as a wedding photographer competing with other competent wedding photographers, but you're competing with those disingenuous people as well, right? So that's part of the problem as well. Like, how do you combat that if there's this cloud of disinformation and incompetency out there that you're fighting against?
Yeah. I can compete with any legitimate photographer all day long, because
Hmm.
I don't believe that most of us have competition. I believe that most of us have an audience, and we just need to let that audience know that we exist. So if I'm a jazz musician, or maybe you're a country singer, like we're not competing for audiences. Like, you're different, right? If I'm a sushi restaurant versus a barbecue, we're not really sharing the stomach. We just need to let our audience know we're here. My style is very different than a lot of other photographers, so it's always been like, oh hey, just hey, check us out. Like, if you like our style, like our vibe, you like who we are. If you don't like us, there's somebody else over there. Like, go look at them. Like, they do more stuff. And so we've never really felt that we had competition. But what's happening now is dilution.
Mm.
Is, in my area, instead of somebody going through 10 photographers and I'm one of the 10, there's 300 or 500 photographers, and they may or may not ever come across my name. They may never give me a phone call, so I never get to hear from them. So that's the challenge that people have, is, as a consumer. I mean, actually that's both sides, right? Is how do you get to your customer? How do you get them to see you and hear you? Also, as a consumer, how do you get to the right vendor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you find the Troy that likes to shoot with fisheye and he's edgy? Or how do you find the person who likes to do really soft, warm colors and everything's like, how do they find that? Like, I don't know. There's no easy answer to that.
Yeah. Maybe there's an AI they can develop that will sort
Yeah. AI will
through
solve
all
everything. Yeah.
this AI. You could like aim it at a website, it'll tell you if they're legit or not, right?
Maybe that's ChatGPT, and it'll be like, oh, we'll just call my good friend Troy. Like, he likes all
Oh my
that.
god. Oh my god. Yeah. It's interesting. It's gonna be a ride, regardless. So all right, man. I know you gotta run. If people I was showing your imagery concept stuff from your website on the screen while you were talking. Can you, if people want to get in touch with you, or you mentioned F64 Live, the community that you're running, all that stuff, what's a good way for people to just sort of reach out and either commiserate with Troy or give him words of encouragement to stay the course?
Imageryconcepts.com. You can reach out to us there. spicyjello.com. You can also reach out to me. That's kind of my fine art stuff there. It's not a fantastic website, but you can reach me there. Or This Week in Photo on the TWiP network. I'm part of your community as well, so you can always like join that. I have a community that I've spun up in parallel to what Frederick is doing, called F64 Live. It's a F64 Live community. It's not quite ready for public, but if you go to f64live.com, that website is going to be updated with a link that can bring you into the community, which we host on Circle. If anybody's familiar with the Circle community, it's a really powerful platform. I got a lot of plates in the air, like
You
you,
do.
like so many,
As we do. As we
so many
do. Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm assuming that you have an email waiting list thing up on that site, right? So if people go there, they're going to be like, "Oh, I want to be notified when your community opens." That's there, right?
Probably within the next week or so, that's going to kind of shift to a community landing page to kind of tell you about the community and kind of get you there.
Good. Very
You
good.
can also find me on Suno under Spicy Jello. I think if you just look up Spicy Jello, you can find me on Suno, and there's some stuff in there. So I don't know if you can reach out or ping me there. Like, I don't know.
I'll link to all that stuff. They'll hunt you down
Yeah,
if they want you. If they want to find you, they'll find you.
that's what I'm afraid of.
Cool, man. All right. Well, I'll leave you with the final word on just everything we talked about. We had sort of a trifecta of a conversation where we talked about
Yeah.
the hows with this AI song creation stuff. Then we talked about the whys behind the lyrics of your I Was a Storyteller song. And then we talked about where the industry may or may not be going in the future. What are your overall final thoughts on all that stuff?
Oh, just take a deep breath enjoy what you're doing, and just be discerning, take it slow, be good to everybody, be good to one another, right? Like that seems cliche this time of the year, but you
Not
know,
really. Not really.
the old D-bad, right? The old D-bad. Yeah. And walk slow and read. That's another one of my adages. So
I like it.
have
I
to
like
have
it.
to talk
You've
about that later.
been saying walk slow and read a lot. I need more data around that. So walk slow and read a book or listen to an audiobook. Does that suffice?
No. I'll give you a very quick backstory of that. So me and my friends were hiking in the backcountry of Yosemite, and we were young. I mean, like we were early 20s, and we're just hauling butt. Like we're hauling butt. We come to this little clearing. We're just sitting there, have some water, and we look down. And there's this old guy just sitting there on a tree, and we're talking to him, and like, okay, we gotta go. And he's like, hey, walk slow and read. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And it just kind of stuck with us, me and my buddies. And for me, what it means is that, just take your time and enjoy what's around you at the moment, right? Read your environment. That's what it means to me. I've created a metal sign. I've got a metal sign up here that says that. It's just always been sort of that thing that kind of stuck with me. So
It's interesting that you say that because it's like I have a little Troy Miller sitting on my shoulder whenever I go to Target or someplace like that because I'll park kind of far away from the store because I like the little walk up. So I park back there. Normally I have this brisk, like I got some place to be walk, even if I don't have any place really to be. I'm like walking with a sense of urgency and
right.
purpose. And then I'll have this Troy on my shoulder saying, walk slow and read. Why are you in a hurry? Right. So then I'll slow down and I feel so much better about it. I'm like, why am I rushing? Why am I trying to
Yeah.
get, like, even driving? Why am I trying to get to that next stoplight faster than this guy next to me? Like, it doesn't that doesn't matter. It's a function of age, Troy. You got to get older. I was going to say old, but you got to get older in order to be able to throttle down, I think.
True. It's true. There is wisdom in age. There absolutely is wisdom in age.
Yes, yes. All right, Troy Miller, I will leave it right there. I will link to all of the things that we discussed in the show notes for this episode. And I encourage feedback on this. I would really love to know, especially if you're photographers, of course, but especially if you're a wedding and event photographer. Does any of the things that Troy said today, do they resonate with you? When you listen to the song, does it echo the things that you're feeling, or is it like that guy's just burnt out? He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. Yeah. So I want to hear. I want to hear. So hit us up. You'll have our social presences or handles in the links or comment on the blog, wherever.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to hear what you guys think. And if you're in the TWiP community, for sure, this will be posted in there. Sound off in the comments because I want to hear what you guys think as
They never
well.
hold
Because
back.
I know how shy everyone is in there. So
Yeah.
So, all right, Troy Miller, thank you, my friend, for being so open and transparent about all this. It's not easy to, like, especially after 30 years, to like say you feel like the train's pulling into the station or you need to get on a different train. Even just saying that has got to be like some self reflection going on. So, Troy Miller, take care of yourself, man. We'll talk soon.